My first ever Q&A session. Let's do it. Well, what's happening, everybody? Thanks so much for joining in. I'm not going to say sorry for what I'm wearing because I absolutely love it. It's my Batman hoodie. Yeah, I'm a superhero memorabilia collector, but yeah, I'm quite cold at the minute. But yeah, thanks very much for joining in. I really appreciate it, and I just wanted to start today's video by saying thanks very much for getting me to 4,000 subscribers. I've been on YouTube for almost a year, I believe. Well, I've been on YouTube for years, but I've been only basically making content for almost a year. Just over 4,000, so thanks very much. And if you haven't already, please like, subscribe, and comment if you can. And say thanks so much. I've been on Instagram since about August, and I'm near 4,000 on Instagram. And I've been on TikTok since late 2020, and I've practically 220,000 followers on TikTok. All my socials are there. I'm pretty easy to find. It's the Dark Pete, but that's the mirror. If you want to give me a follow on the other socials, I really appreciate it. I'm on X as well, but I'm not like really on that. But yeah, I just wanted to start the video by saying thanks so much. I really appreciate everybody's support, their comments, and people watching my videos. Thanks so much. But yeah, in celebration, more or less, of me reaching 4,000, I thought I would do a Q&A video and ask people to put in questions that they would like to ask me. And I'm open to much more questions, and I could do another video if you are watching this and you never got the chance to put a question in. By all means, far away. And I'll do another video. But yeah, I thought, why not? Why not do a Q&A video? To let people get to know me a bit better. And just certain questions that you may be interested in hearing. So that's exactly what I'm gonna do. I actually don't know how to put the questions up or to tag people, but I'm sure if you've put these questions in, I've chosen 5 of them, wrote them down on my phone. I'm sure you'll know it's been your question. But without any further ado, let's get into it. I'm going to start off with this one because it's sort of a controversial question to ask, but I'm open to ask anything. But the question is it difficult being a Catholic in Belfast? And in my opinion, no. And I'm sure that will be, especially nowadays, for Catholics and Protestants. I think, hopefully, touch wood, all the sectarian stuff that went on years and years ago, hopefully that is bygone, like it's consigned to history. So I think being a Catholic nowadays doesn't, obviously I still have my faith like other people with faith does, but I don't think it hinders me in any way, like in regards to where it possibly did years ago. Like I know back decades ago, I'm not going to get into it in this video, but there was, yeah, a lot of sectarian violence, a lot of sectarian prejudices about, and opportunities and all would have been constricted and stuff like that. Maybe for both communities, maybe for other communities. But yeah, but in terms of me now and being a Catholic now, I don't see really much to worry about whatsoever. So yeah, I wouldn't say it is difficult being a Catholic whatsoever. So yeah, thanks very much for that question. The second question is associated with Northern Ireland and Ireland. And the question is, what are my favourite places to visit in Northern Ireland. In Ireland, like, I'm not going to speak about the favorite places like with other people. I'm going to speak on what I view as my favorite. And I'm going to avoid Belfast because I live here, but I'm sure for other people coming to visit, Belfast is amazing. But yeah, so I'll avoid Belfast. But yeah, in terms of Northern Ireland, I'm going to say three. And the three for Northern Ireland is Portrush. For me, Portrush has Northern Ireland's best beach. I love Portrush. Newcastle. I was gonna say it's like a mini Las Vegas, but it's like a mini version of Las Vegas. Let's just say. Um, and the third one would be a Arglass / Ballyhornan. That area, like, always went holidays there with my family type of thing. Um, and I used to love going there. It's very country. The first two more like, well, Portrush is like a bit in between. Like there's the beach and then there's like the fun part and then there's very country elements to it. While Newcastle is very amusements, say like a mini Las Vegas. Whilst Arglass / Ballyhornan down that area is very rural, very country vibes, very homely, very quiet. There's a beach and all there. Yeah, it just gives you a bit of the countryside. So they would be my three favorite in Northern Ireland. In terms of Ireland, I'm gonna say two. Omeath, love Omeath. Um, just loved it. I still love it. Omeath would be one. And the second one, I say it's the most beautiful spot that I've visited in Ireland, is Kilkenny. Absolutely gorgeous, Kilkenny. Um, so many sights, just a beautiful location. What can I say? It's just the most beautiful place I've seen in Ireland. So yeah, they would be my best places that I've visited. But as I say, there's so much more that I haven't visited. I'm sure people will disagree with what I believe. I'm sure there's people has other opinions. But yet they're the places that I love and they're my favorite places. Third question. What does my family think of me on social media? And do they watch me? The simple answer to the second one is yes, they do watch me. Not so much my dad. He would watch me like via a third party. So like my ma would show him or something like that, or I would show him. Um, but my ma would watch me. Um, my sisters would watch me. Um, I'm sure they're watching this or they will watch this. So hi is. um, yeah, and in terms of what they think of me on it, I hope and I think they think that I'm doing a brilliant job on it. Um, plus the fact, especially via my TikTok and the stuff like I get via affiliates and like brand collaborations, I get them a lot of good gear. You know what I mean? Um, so there's that on it. So yeah, and I know they laugh at a lot of my videos as well. So as long as they're happy and enjoying it, that does me. You know what I mean? And I haven't had any negative remarks in that regard. So I think they love me being on it. The final two is associated with history. One's on my research, the second one's on moving forward. So I'll do my research one first. The question is, were you always interested in history, and why choose your specific PhD? First of all, for anybody that's watching my video for the first time, my current PhD is on the rise and fall of Thatcher's poll tax. The poll tax was a very controversial policy in the late 1980s, early 1990s. Hugely controversial, caused riots and stuff like that. Um, that's my PhD for a start, so I'll just get that out of the way. But in terms of the very first question, in that question, were you always interested in history? Well, I can't speak of when I was like very young, but I know I loved history when I was like fourth and fifth year. Um, I loved doing it in my A level, so I could say like I was always interested in history, and I've loved various topics that I've studied. So like World War II, um, America, like, and I'm on about like the post-war boom America, know that era stuff. Museum history, Irish history, late modern British history. Um, Also a bit of religious history as well. Let's say, despite me being Catholic, one of the most interesting modules that I took in history, um, was the origins of Protestantism, um, like 1521, Martin Luther and stuff like that. Um, so yeah, that I've always loved history. There's so much history still to be told, so much history to be uncovered. One thing about history is you can always look back and assess how history has either dictated modern times or could tell us to avoid certain ways to go. Do you know what I mean? And repeat the same mistakes. So I've always loved history in that regard. Um, there's so much more I want to research, so much areas I would love to research. But getting on to the second part of that question, why did I choose this specific PhD? Um, First of all, when I was in the third, I never thought I would be interested in Margaret Thatcher's Britain as a topic getting into university. Probably the way a lot of students go when they go into university, they think they're going to totally hate a topic and eventually stumble into it and then they become so interested in it. As I say, probably my main area of love entering university, and I still love these topics, are maybe like the Nazi Germany period of history and famine Ireland, so 19th century Ireland. Still love those periods to look at. But on third year, without my undergraduate degree was history and sociology. So I had to take 3 modules in history and 3 in sociology. No, for the 50-50 split. And because of the way my modules were working in my third year, I was left but with no choice but to take a module called Thatcher's Britain. And despite me being initially hesitant about going on that module, I found it so interesting. Topics that I'd never learnt about before. So stuff such as like Thatcherism, very controversial topics as well. I may stress that. So Thatcherism, which is the economic policies around Thatcher, and also Thatcher's own personality. Then like the miners' strikes, um, race riots in the 1980s, like the Brixton riots and all type of thing. Um, and yeah, just the impact Thatcher and the Cold War type of. I just was so fascinated by that topic in that module that I sort of developed a deep interest in it straight away from when I start delving into it. So that's how I became interested in the overall topic. And then on my masters was international public policy. I took a few modules on that masters that delved into like neoliberal thought. So how policies were linked to neoliberalism in like the 1980s and stuff like that. So it crossed into Thatcherism again. Do you know what I mean? Thatcher was like neoliberal views. And then for a master's dissertation, I focused on climate policy under Thatcher. Um, Very under researched topic. I was one of the first people to do it. I still believe I was. And I got a top grade in it. Um, I loved researching from a dissertation. I believed I wrote it brilliantly, and as the grade recommended. So yeah, massive deep interest. But yeah, as I was coming across like the Thatcher's readings, I kept noticing the poll tax, and the poll tax was always linked to Margaret Thatcher's ultimate downfall as Prime Minister. Um, it was always written about it how it was controversial, the policy was controversial, and how there was rats and all around it, and also that it possibly did contribute to her downfall, for example. But despite being written about in that regard, it was always buried away in amongst deeper topics. So the poll tax would have been just in a wee tiny paragraph associated with the fall of Thatcher, for example. Um, or the poll tax would have been buried away in a textbook associated with local government, for example. Stuff like that. It was never really written about as an individual topic, and the dynamics associated with its ultimate rise and then its fall. And that's what I'm looking at, and also how it may have contributed to Thatcher's fall as Prime Minister. So I'm looking at stuff like who was behind the poll tax initially. So it's people, yes, Thatcher was the Prime Minister, but the key people initially behind it were people such as William Waldegrave, Kenneth Baker, Victor Rothschild, and then there was other people like Michael Forsyth, who was an MP, um, and the ASI, different institutions. They were behind the raise of the poll tax, and then there was different episodes that was really pivotal for coming in. So mid 1980s, there was a lot of controversy around the rates, which was the tax in place before the poll tax, and there was something called the Scottish reevaluation that really tipped criticism about the rates to boiling point. So it really created like a moment in time for the poll tax to eventually come in. Do you know what I mean? And despite being initially, I'm not going to say initially favored, but it wasn't like controversial, like to be proposing a poll tax mid 1980s. Over the next subsequent years, it definitely did become controversial, and there was a lot of groups opposed to it, and that's what I'll be looking at as well. So I'll be looking at religious groups opposed to it, charitable groups opposed to it, and also the political groups opposed to it as well. So that's what I'm looking at, and I ultimately that's why I ultimately got interested in it, and I believe it's a very worthwhile topic. You know what I mean? So yeah, and there's so much more I could link elsewhere after my PhD associated with Thatcher that I'd hopefully love to carry on. You know what I mean? So that's why I got interested in my PhD. Um yeah. And the final question is, well, not necessarily a question, so to speak. It's more to do about what direction my channel would go in. So I'm asking you, Melissa, and somebody did put a point out there to say more historical videos on Ireland, so to speak. So it's a question for me: should I pursue that avenue, um, and do more historical videos and stuff associated with Ireland? So, as I say, if you want me to pursue that direction, yes, I'll be still doing like shorts on like this word means this word means that, etc., etc. But if you want me to go more in depth on like historical episodes and important subjects and people and events that happened in Irish/Northern Irish history, I would very well love to do that. And if you want me to do it, name certain topics, as I say, just off the top of my head. Like I done a video on about Catholics and Protestants in Northern Ireland, like a funny video, like like how can you tell them apart? But I could do like one on the real like origins of like that bitter divide over time. So like from plantations right through. Do you know what I mean? Then there's other episodes you could obviously do. As I say, I mentioned the Irish famine way back. I love 19th century Ireland. There's Catholic emancipation, which was just before the famine. Um, Even before that, there's periods that I haven't really great knowledge of, but if I was to delve in deep into them, um, for a certain video, I would definitely do it or to research it. So periods such as like the revolutionary period in Irish history under like Wolfe Tone, which was late 1700s, early 1800s. Do you know what I mean? Those periods. And then you're getting more into like 20th century Irish history. Well, late 19th century Irish to 20th century Irish history. So the Irish Land Wars, Charles Stuart Parnell, the Home Rule crisis, big in Irish history. I've done a lot around that. Easter Rising. Then there's the Irish War of Independence, the Irish Civil War. So those periods I could do videos on. And then, as I say, moving more up towards modern day, so that the troubles in Northern Ireland, um, you know what I mean, eventually came to an end, so to speak, but the real bitter, like, war aspect of the troubles came to an end with the Good Friday Agreement in 1998. And then there's other, like, more trivial historical topics I could probably look into, whether it be the history of a certain sport, the history of a certain person within Ireland. As I say, I'm doing Thatcher, so I'll go do Thatcher in Ireland. Very controversial topic. One of my colleagues, PhD colleagues, she's actually doing Thatcher and not specifically focusing on Thatcher in Ireland, but just focusing on like Thatcher and the hunger strikers and how to like was Thatcher a nationalist, so to speak. While as one of my other PhD colleagues is doing a PhD on John Hume and Europe. You know what I mean? He's another big figure. Um, in Northern Irish history, especially, was a politician, big in the peace process. Um, and yet there's so many other people I could do off. There was like, as I say, I'm a Catholic, but there was people such as like Henry Cook, who was a Presbyterian minister in the 1800s, who was key to understanding like the move towards like unionism and all stuff. So yeah, there's all those as I mentioned, like Charles Stuart Parnell, um, the two big ones. Do you know what I mean? Michael Collins, for example. So yeah, there's so many people I could delve into if you want me to do on those type of historical Irish videos or like associated with Ireland, and say just drop my comments in type of videos you want me to do more of. I say the videos take a lot longer to obviously they're not longer to watch, but because they're that longer to watch, if I was to be moving towards that direction, I would put a lot more effort into them. So it would really I would like do PowerPoints, PowerPoints, etc. for them to really put effort into them and give a good overview. Do you know what I mean? Like a small lecture. So yeah, if you want me to do more on them, just please let me know. And as I say, I'll try my best. But yeah, thanks very much for the questions. If you have any more, just drop them in the chat. We'll probably do an R Q&A in the future. But yeah, once again, thanks so much for the 4,000. I really appreciate it, and I hope to catch you all soon.